Welcome back to Mrs. Kate's YouTube channel. As you know, in this chapter, we are focusing on transboundary pollution in Europe. Throughout this chapter, we are looking at 3 examples of how pollution spreads from one place to another: the Chernobyl radiation accident, acid rain and the Black Triangle, and the Danube cyanide spill. In Section 3, we saw how an explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant caused nuclear radiation to spread throughout all of Europe. Then, in Section 4, we saw how air pollution from factories has caused acid rain, which has spread to communities and ecosystems near and far. Today, we will be talking about Section 5. This section focuses on the Danube cyanide spill. Here are our learning objectives for today. After watching this lecture, you will be able to explain the events of the Danube cyanide spill, to explain how this accident is an example of transboundary pollution, and to describe the positive and negative effects of the spill. As you watch, please fill in your guided notes on pages 40 and 41 in your workbook. Remember, just like last time, I'm not going to give you all the answers. Throughout the lecture, you will have to pay attention and listen for the answers. Also, you will receive a homework quiz during the next class to check how well you understood this material, so please pay attention. So let's get started. First, it will be helpful to understand the geography of this part of Europe. We'll do this by looking at a particular river system. Remember, a river system is a river and all the streams that flow into it. Here is a picture of the Danube river system. You can see how the Samos River flows into the Tisza River. The Tisza River then connects into the Danube River. From here, water flows all the way out to the Black Sea. In your workbook, you have a different map that shows many countries in Europe. Looking at this map, find the country of Romania. Now, find the town of Baia Mare. I'm very sorry, I forgot to label the city with the dot. Please draw in the black dot just as you see it here on the map. Next, comparing your map to the one shown here, label the rivers in your workbook. Then, use a highlighter to trace these rivers and show how they connect to each other. You can pause this video if you need more time. You can also see how the countries that are connected to this river system are all bordering around the river: Ukraine, Slovakia, Hungary, Serbia and Montenegro, which by the way is one country, Bulgaria, and of course Romania. On your map, color in all of the countries that are connected to the river system. Again, you can pause this video if you'd like. So why do we care about this river system? Well, we care because about 15 years ago, there was a very big accident there that caused the whole river system to become polluted. And as we'll see, this is a strong example of transboundary pollution. Here's what happened. In Europe, there's a lot of mining. Mining is when people find ways to take resources from the earth. Here you can see people mining for gold. They use these pans and sort through the different rocks, hoping to find pieces of gold, like this. This is something they do in Romania. In the rivers, they search for this precious metal. This is how we get gold to make our jewelry. One way of finding the gold is to use a chemical called cyanide. Cyanide is a chemical that helps separate gold from other rocks. This makes it easier for the miners to find the gold. The problem with using cyanide is that it's very toxic. It's very, very harmful to people and to ecosystems. If you were to drink a spoonful of cyanide, you would die within about a minute. It's that toxic. So this is a chemical that people were using in the river system. So now let's go back to this river system. Near the Samos River is the village of Baia Mare. You found it earlier on the map. It was here in this village that companies were mining for gold. They used cyanide in their mining operation. The company thought it was a good idea to store the extra cyanide in a large pool like this one. They separated the large pool from the rest of the river by building a big dam. On the night of January 30th, 2000, it was raining hard. Water from the storm raised the level of the pond to a danger point. Suddenly, the dam burst. About 100,000 cubic meters of water full of cyanide spilled out of the pond. This is enough toxic waste to fill about 30 Olympic-sized swimming pools. The cyanide spilled first into the Samos River in Romania. But remember, the Samos River it's not going to stop. It's going to be connected. It connects to the Tisza River. So as the water flowed through, it entered the Tisza River system, and then the Tisza emptied into the Danube River system. Finally, the toxic waste emptied into the Black Sea. Remember all of the countries that you colored in on your map? As the toxic water flowed through the river, it affected people in all of these countries. In your workbook, list the 6 countries that were affected by the spill. You can pause this video if you need to. When you're ready, take a minute to answer the next question. How is the Tisza-Danube cyanide spill an example of transboundary pollution? Remember, transboundary pollution is pollution that starts in one country and crosses boundaries into other countries. There were several negative effects of this spill. First, fish and animals died. Here you can see a wagon full of dead fish. Many of the fish that were in the river system were affected just like these. Second, people couldn't drink their water. They couldn't even use their water for showering or washing clothes. In the countries that were affected, they had to bring water in on trucks. This was very expensive and very time-consuming for the people who lived there. Third, tourists canceled their trips to the area, hurting business owners. Because people weren't visiting the region, it meant that all of the people who were depending on tourism weren't making any money. And this lasted for quite a long time after people heard about the spill. They were worried about the water. So people in the tourism industry were really affected. In the end, this spill was so harmful that people called it Water Chernobyl. But luckily, the effects of the spill didn't last long. You see, cyanide breaks down in sunlight. I've tried to use colors to show you how this happens. As the water flowed through the river, cyanide broke it down. At the beginning, it was very toxic. You can see I've used bright green to highlight how toxic it was. And a little ways down the river, in the Samos River, it was still very toxic. But then things started to improve. Once it was in the Tisza River, it was slightly less toxic, although it was certainly still a problem for the people of Hungary and then in Serbia and Montenegro. But by the time it reached the Danube River system, it wasn't quite so bad for the fish. It wasn't as toxic. Now, of course, I don't think I would want to eat fish from the Danube River, but as they say, it wasn't quite as bad. At least by the time it reached the Black Sea, it was even less harmful. Even so, scientists don't know how long it will take for the river to completely recover. Most of them agree that it could take many years. Still, there was one positive effect from the spill. The spill focused people's attention on water pollution. In the Tisza-Danube River system, pollution was a huge problem. Mining accidents were only one source of pollution. Many towns dumped their untreated sewage into the waterways. Farms and factories also polluted the rivers with fertilizers and chemicals. In 1998, the International Commission for the Protection of the Danube River was established. The members of the commission represent the 13 countries that share the Danube River system. They're working together to find ways to reduce transboundary pollution in this part of the world. Since then, pollution here has become much less of a problem. So now you know all about the Tisza-Danube cyanide spill. As always, thank you for doing your homework. Please bring your questions with you to class.